Things I like about being autistic.
Number 1.
Feeling high all the time. Okay, maybe not 24/7, but definitely very often. I have a strong visual mind, vivid dreams and imagination, and an overall rich perception of life. While it makes me vulnerable to sensory overload, it also allows me to feel all sorts of euphoria, and without mind-altering substances. Music can be a spiritual experience, my emotions reacting like those little fluctuating volume bars on stereo systems. And just about anything I see with my eyes or visualize in my head can be beautiful, regardless of what it is. It can easily draw me in and mesmerize me.
Number 2.
My attention to detail. This can be both amazing and annoying. Amazing because it makes mindfulness techniques super easy. A single blade of grass can grab my attention and hold it. I could never ignore the rays of sunlight through the clouds or forget this fire hydrant that I once saw that was painted like Van Gogh's The Starry Night. And annoying because a single utensil out of place in the kitchen makes me irate, and a bit of shine can distract me from a conversation and I'd have to ask the other person to repeat themselves. But I digress. Another benefit to this is my strict adherence to guidelines. I like to do things by the book, every detail done correctly. This helps me in cooking or baking challenging recipes, and it certainly helps me in all my creative endeavors like writing and video editing, as I make sure everything is just right and meets expectations. It may annoy employers or teachers who assign quote-unquote normal deadlines, but I can work thoroughly and skillfully when given the proper time frame.
Number 3.
My unbreakable focus. I can focus intensely for long periods of time. Combining this with my attention to detail helps me memorize facts, imagery, and crucial information. When I get interested in something, my mind is hooked and I can't tear myself away. It's much easier to control this now that I'm an adult, but I do let off the reins selectively when my hyperfocus has a reasonable purpose, like making these videos. For instance, my Mask of Normality video was the result of my hyperfocus for 2 days straight, only taking breaks to eat and sleep. I don't typically do this in the long term, but it's useful for projects both big and small. One exception is my Asperger's documentary. A friend of mine recalls me working on the film almost every night for many hours when I was in college, and he would often stay on a Skype call with me until he couldn't stay awake anymore, and I would keep plugging away in the meantime, sometimes until sunrise. My focus seems to weirdly defy or ignore my human needs, so I'd gladly call it a superpower.
Number 4.
My connection to the earth. While I do like big cities as a site for social adventures and having the convenience of stores being close by, nothing beats wandering the forest on resting days. I seem to have a primal connection to nature, so being surrounded by it makes me feel at home. Too much of the city and I start to feel a strong urge to run off into the woods and away from people. I also have an overall childlike fascination with the world and everything in it. So regardless where I am, city, forest, Disneyland, parking lot, even a dumpster, I can always find something to amuse me. It's like mindfulness, taking in a scene or focusing on a specific detail, and I hold on to that moment as if it's something miraculous.
Number 5.
Accepting others comes naturally. I find it very easy to like anyone regardless of their differences. Since I myself am very different, I tend to attract other weirdos like me, and I understand from personal experience not to judge a book by its cover. And this makes it easier for me to make friends, and a very diverse mix of them at that. The only downsides from this are some awkward social outings with mismatched friends, because I can't always tell when people are uncomfortable with each other, but I try to get all the weirdos together anyway.
Speaking of weirdo groups, I have a Discord server called the Waffle Zone. It's sort of like an online club for neurodivergent people. You can join via a link in the description. Number 6.
My deep self-awareness. I've been told I'm very self-aware and insightful, which surprised me at first, since I assumed it to be normal. This might seem odd for an aspie emotionally, considering the commonality of alexithymia among autistics, which is the difficulty identifying and expressing one's emotions. I do have this problem, but I'm quite good at psychoanalyzing myself in retrospect. This means that I need to experience something first, live through the consequences, often many times, and then recognize why it happened and how I should respond next time. At least now, I know my anxiety triggers and how to avoid them in most cases, and I've worked through some of them by delving into the psychology behind them.
Number 7.
My constant drive for self-improvement. Unfortunately, it's easy to get lazy in your habits when you're well-adjusted and comfortable, but if you're the average autistic, you're probably not well-adjusted by nature. You're forced to adapt to the world on a daily basis because you lack the instinctive social skills and you have to work pretty dang hard to learn them. This constant demand to fit in has always kept me on my toes, even in recent years when I do feel more well-adjusted. Like, some people forget that I'm autistic. Since self-improvement has been drilled into me socially, I apply this to other areas of my life, like managing my emotions, healing my traumas, and replacing unhealthy habits with beneficial ones. It also comes in handy in pushing myself to excel in my areas of interest and skill, like writing, video editing, cooking, stuff like that. So what do you like about being autistic? Leave a comment. I want to hear what you have to say.
I picked up an old acoustic guitar that my family had lying around. I think it belonged to my grandfather. It was up in the attic, and this was after my dad passed away, and I just kind of randomly picked up this acoustic guitar that I found. I figured out how to strum a chord, and for reasons that I can't explain to this day, it comforted me in a way that I knew from then on that music was a thing that would be in my life forever.